The Paiute people of Nevada called them the Si-Te-Cah. The Choctaw called them the Nahullo. The Navajo called them Si-Te-Cah. None of these nations had contact with each other. None had contact with the ancient Near East. And yet the Book of Numbers, written 3,000 years ago, describes a race of giants the Israelite spies encountered and said, and I'm quoting directly, "We were like grasshoppers in our own sight, and so we were in their sight." 4 civilizations, 4 continents, 4 independent traditions, 1 description. In 2002, a US military unit filed a report that matched all of them. The unit was moving through a narrow canyon in the Kandahar province of Afghanistan, following a trail of missing men. A previous patrol had stopped reporting. No radio contact, no distress signal, no explanation. What they encountered in that canyon was not described in any field manual or threat assessment briefing they had ever received. It was a humanoid figure, upright, red hair, 6 fingers on each hand, approximately 12 feet tall. Contact was made. 1 man did not survive the encounter. The unit engaged, and after significant effort, the situation was contained. A Chinook helicopter was called in. What was recovered was wrapped in a cargo net and transported beneath the aircraft. Estimated weight over 1,000 pounds. Back at base, the unit was separated and handed documentation restricting further disclosure. They were directed to reclassify the event as a standard engagement in their incident reports. One member later said the debriefer's exact words were, "This didn't happen, and if it did happen, you didn't see what you think you saw." Now, before you decide what to do with that account, I want to show you something. As I searched the Library of Congress newspaper archive, a database of real American newspapers going back to the 1840s, I found the same phrase appearing in 42 different states across 80 years. Bones delivered to the Smithsonian. Giant bones, 7 feet, 8 feet, 9 feet. Reported by county surveyors, by Methodist ministers, by railroad workers, by professors from state universities. Not fringe publications. The New York Times, the Chicago Tribune, the Los Angeles Herald. Over 3,000 documented reports between 1845 and 1930. Not one set of those remains is in any public Smithsonian collection today. That's not speculation. The newspapers are still there. You can search them yourself at Chronicling America, the Library of Congress's own free archive. The chain of custody is documented. It ends at the Smithsonian's door, and the Smithsonian has never explained what happened to the anomalous remains. Here's what makes it worse. In 1879, one man became director of the Smithsonian Bureau of Ethnology, the famous explorer John Wesley Powell. Within 12 months, Powell implemented a policy reclassifying all oversized skeleton reports as measurement errors. Not because he had investigated them, because the existence of a pre-Columbian race of giants was, in his words, incompatible with the evolutionary framework. Within 5 years, the newspaper accounts dropped dramatically. The documentation stopped accumulating, not because the discoveries stopped, but because the institution receiving them had decided they would not be acknowledged. One decision, one man, 1 year, and 80 years of documented evidence quietly ceased to exist. That pattern, documented evidence entering an institution and ceasing to exist publicly, is the same pattern the unit in Kandahar experienced. Their report was rewritten, their disclosure agreements were signed. The recovered material was delivered to a facility with no public oversight. Same evidence, same destination, same silence. Now let's look at what the physical record actually shows, because the 6 fingers matter more than anything else in this story. In 2 Samuel chapter 21, verse 20, the Bible describes a warrior encountered in battle. A man of great stature who had 6 fingers on each hand and 6 toes on each foot. That is a specific, unusual anatomical detail, polydactyly in a giant, recorded in a text over 2,000 years old. The Kandahar witnesses specifically reported 6 fingers. That detail does not appear in the popular retellings of the story. It appears only in the first-hand accounts, the ones given before the witnesses had time to study the topic, which means either those men were scholars of obscure Old Testament passages, or they were describing something they actually saw. In 1924, archaeologists excavating Lovelock Cave in Nevada found mummified remains with reddish hair and sandals measuring 15 inches long. The Paiute oral tradition, recorded by their own historian Sarah Winnemucca in 1883 before the excavation, described the Si-Te-Cah in precisely those terms. Red-haired, enormous, driven into that cave and destroyed by a coalition of tribes. The physical evidence matched the oral tradition perfectly. The Smithsonian inventoried the finds. The largest skeletal material was never publicly catalogued. On Catalina Island in the 1920s, archaeologist Ralph Glidden excavated over 4,000 skeletons averaging 7 feet tall, some reaching 9 feet. He photographed everything. His notes and photographs were transferred to the Smithsonian. The physical remains have never been publicly displayed. No academic institution ever engaged with his findings. The Paracas skulls of Peru, elongated craniums with reddish or blonde hair discovered in the 1920s, had DNA tested in 2014. The lead researcher described the mitochondrial mutations as completely unknown in any human primate or animal. The Peruvian government blocked further independent testing within 3 months. The researchers' funding was cut. In the mountains of Kandahar, local Pashtun elders had a name for what their tradition described in that region: the Jinn of the Red Mountain. When American personnel arrived in the area after 2001, elders warned them specifically about the canyons near Kandahar. Those warnings were not passed up the chain of command. 3 separate communities, 3 separate oral traditions, 3 separate warnings about the same thing in the same region at the same general coordinates. Here is what I can establish with documented evidence. The US military has a formal, unclassified protocol for the removal and classification of biological specimens found during field operations. That protocol was specifically expanded after 2001 to include what it calls anomalous biological material encountered in the Afghan theater. It does not define what anomalous biological material means. It does not provide examples. It simply states that if something is found, there is a chain of custody, and that chain ends at a facility that is not open to public or congressional oversight. More than 30 former personnel have spoken about the Kandahar incident on record. Not on news programs, in podcast interviews, in private forums, in conversations later shared. Their accounts are consistent in the details that matter: the height, the hair, the 6 fingers, the documentation, the helicopter, the rewritten report. In investigative journalism, 3 independent, consistent accounts is the publication threshold. The Kandahar file has more than 30. No major outlet has investigated it. No congressional inquiry has been opened. No FOIA request has returned anything beyond no records found, which is itself a documented response pattern for classified biological material. A 12-foot humanoid with 6 fingers and red hair does not just challenge the evolutionary timeline, it validates, specifically, anatomically, precisely, the physical descriptions in texts that institutional science has spent 2 centuries calling mythology. If the Nephilim were real, the Book of Enoch was describing real events. If the Book of Enoch was describing real events, then the Council of Nicaea's decision to exclude it from Scripture in 325 AD was not a theological judgment. It was an editorial one, made by an institution with every reason to control what people believed about the nature of the world. The same institution that, 1,700 years later, still hasn't explained what happened to 18,000 uncatalogued skeletons. The unit in Kandahar didn't stumble onto a mystery. They stumbled onto the answer to one, and someone somewhere decided the world wasn't ready to receive it. Maybe they were right, maybe they weren't. But the fact that you are still watching means the question is still alive, and the people trying to bury it haven't finished the job yet. Subscribe if you want to keep pulling on threads like this. Every video on this channel starts with a gap in the official story, and we keep walking through those gaps until someone gives us a better answer. Drop a comment. Do you think the Kandahar account was real? And if it was, what does that change about everything else we think we know?